Well, we're inside at the Comfort Inn, and great thanks to our friends who own this place for letting us use their facilities from time to time. And it's the 26th day of February 2016, and I'm with Penny Clute. How are you?
I'm fine, Gordy. How are you?
I was reminiscing. I'm great, thanks. I was reminiscing as to when we might have met each other, and I don't have a clue, but it wasn't last Tuesday. It's a long...
It was a long time. Well, you were at Wiry.
For a long time, and so it had to be in those days.
I suspect it was in the 80s. Probably the first time I ran for DA, 1985.
When
I
did
probably
you
came on your...
When did you become an attorney?
When did I become an attorney?
Yeah.
Well, I moved here in 1978.
Oh, you did? See, I never
John
knew
grew
that.
up here, but I grew up in Michigan. So became an attorney in 73, but moved here in 78. That's when we opened our practice. And I ran for DA the first time against Andy Ryan in 1985. And so I was doing
Talk
the
about
radio shows,
turning
and I
the
think
calendar back.
a long time ago, right?
The 70s don't seem like that long ago to me, but to young people who were born in 1987, you know, that's past his. No kidding.
I know I met you when you were at Wiry, so
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
sure.
either,
Yeah.
I suspect it was in the 80s.
And
And
we-
then you were the victim advocate. When I was DA, you were at probation as a victim
So
advocate.
our paths have crossed and sometimes intermingled more than once over the
Oh,
years.
yeah.
But I watch what you do very carefully because you're one of those very special people,
Oh, thank you.
and you care about a lot of the same issues that I do, and those are all good things. So you were district attorney for how long?
For 13 years,
Is that
from
possible?
1989 through 2001. Then I was city court judge for 10 years. And I've been gone for 4 years. So
That's almost impossible for me to believe. So what occupies your time mostly now?
well, a variety of things. Photography is big for me now, and that does occupy a lot of my time, both taking photographs and then finding interesting trips to do, taking photographs and then displaying them. I have a website where I show photographs, and I created a moving picture slideshow from the Cuba photographs I took a year ago. So I've been going around the
To me
community showing that.
It's so fascinating. This whole Cuban thing, of course, we know all the history involved with Cuba. Now that, you know, I don't know how many flights a day they're planning to go
Yeah.
to over 100 flights a day from the United States. Excuse me. And you know, the renewed relationships with Cuba are just beyond. You know,
Well, there was nothing for 54 years. So
having
right,
lived through the Bay of Pigs
Yeah.
and watching that whole thing happen in the early Castro days, wow.
So I've been doing photography. I write a monthly column for the Press Republican on the law. I enjoy that. I also been volunteering at the Clinton County Historical Association.
I know, and
I
bless
do
you a
research and writing.
1,000 times for that.
Well, I do research and writing on local history,
Yeah.
especially if it relates to crime. I like.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still interested in that. So.
Well, you know, some of my earliest memories of meeting you were conversations about ancient crimes and hangings in this area, and
We both did a Halloween
way back
show
when.
at the Kent Delord House, and I had I had execute early murderers,
Is it-
early crime in Plattsburgh. Peggy Facto, who was hanged in 1825. Yeah.
Calvin and I are both personally history buffs. I'm not very smart, so I forget much that I learned, but I learned so much that I still retain a little bit about the history. But aren't we so rich in local history in this area?
Oh, we are.
In so many ways, military history and all kinds of history. And not a day goes by that I don't get a question from somebody on Facebook as to, you know, who lived in that old house on Court Street, or did you know, what do you know about this, or how did Wiggletown get its name, and so many things over the years. So it's wonderful. The history in this area has been fantastic. And everybody has a different perspective on history. And yours, I'm sure, is probably probably affected by what you did for a living for so many years. I don't know. Especially in the
Well,
crime
somewhat,
aspect of it.
The things I'm interested in
Yeah.
have been so far, the early crimes, early murders, but then the Plattsburgh idea and the
Oh.
civilian military training camps 100 years ago, on
That was
the Oval.
That was a great television program that we did with you in City Court way back when you had the displays.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many years ago. Calvin's pretty good on the chronological memory, but I bet you it's 8 or 9 years ago now.
I don't know if it's that many, but.
Really?
Oh,
Who knows?
Yeah.
Time flies when you're
Just
having
put the
fun.
display up. Been gone 4 years, you said?
been gone 4 years. I think that was, well, it was certainly 10 years ago. And it might have been longer. I had looked it up and now I forget. I'm thinking there was, because we had 2 different segments
Right.
of preparing the displays, and it might have been 2006, maybe at latest 2009.
Is it that? Calvin's
But I
been,
think it was.
Calvin
I think
has
it was
been-
5 and 6.
he's been regurgitating a lot of these old shows that we did way back when, because he and I have been doing this since I left radio in 1997. And Calvin's history with that camera on his shoulder and that tripod goes back to 1983. So when you stop to think about how he's chronicled the history of this area as it unfolds, with all the little kindergarten shows and the boys' basketball and ladies' basketball games and so on over the years, there's a chunk of history. I just got an email from our dear friend, Dr. Richard Frost. He and Anastasia Pratt, who is the Clinton County historian, are collaborating on a book about Champlain College on the former base. And he sent me an email asking if I knew if there were anybody who knows anything about it, if there are any photographs or memorabilia. And so I wrote him a rather lengthy email telling him, yes, there are quite a few people who are still alive, including our friend Nap Light, who graduated from Champlain College. And we've learned from many different ways the history of how it came about and how it
Great.
was moved away. And we've seen there are yearbooks, and there was even a website, and I forget the guy's name, but I knew it for years, with thousands of pictures and comments and anecdotes about
Champlain College?
Champlain
Oh, really?
College.
Because it wasn't here it wasn't in existence very long, was it?
Well, it was here for over 4 years, because there was a
4.
graduating class before, this is BC, before Clyde, and his dream about getting the air base here and all of that.
Yeah.
And so what was going to be a real powerful segment of the state university went goodbye. And there are just a lot of young people who never knew there was a college campus.
Right.
But
It's not that well known.
It was a nice campus, and
It was on the Oval?
it was
Was it
right
in-
on the Oval, all around the Oval and so on. And we had the good fortune, and here we are, you and me digressing about something else entirely, but
Why am I here?
It has to do with the history of that area, and they did have a reunion.
Oh,
And that's quite some years ago, but Calvin and I got to meet a lot of the former
Neat.
graduates and talk to them. So that'll be another chunk of history that Dr. Frost and
Can
Stacy
document.
will be involved in.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So how did you first get an interest in taking pictures? Does that go back many, many years?
it goes back, but there was a long gap.
Oh.
I bought a good 35 millimeter camera when I graduated from college, which was 1967.
Oh, I beat you by a lot of years. So,
So I did, and I don't really remember, what prompted me to do that. I don't remember if I took many pictures before then, but anyway,
Yeah.
I kind of gave myself a graduation present of a nice camera and used it. After college, I moved to. I went to Michigan State to college, and I moved to Philadelphia and had a job with the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Outdoor Recreation.
ooh,
And I'd never been in the East before, so it was all, to go to an old city in the East was so different from living in the Midwest. Anyway, I took a lot of pictures. I just wandered around, took pictures of people and buildings, and I got an enlarger. I had a little dark room. So that was the film days.
Yeah.
So I had a dark room and did a lot of black and white photography, and so that would be 67 into 68, and then I went into Vista, Volunteers in Service to America, and was in Chicago for that. I arrived in Chicago 3 weeks after the Democratic
Oh, come on.
convention.
Did you really?
There were still a lot of protests, lots going on, so I
yeah.
was like a street photographer there as well.
Wow.
And actually I brought a book. The two of my photographs
No
were
kidding.
published from that time, from the 1968, and I've got that if you want to take a picture
So
of
you've
that.
been clicking that for a
So
long time.
yeah, but then I decided to go to law school. And I started law school in 1970.
Where?
In Detroit.
Oh, in Detroit.
And I never had any more time.
That was
So
it.
there was no time to,
Oh,
starting
God.
with law school, through I worked as a lawyer in Michigan for 5 years before moving here. And then, was in private practice, then DA. I never had any time, didn't take pictures during that period of time. And it was the mid-2000s before I had the time and the interest again to start taking pictures.
Then along came the digital age,
Yes, and that's,
and that revolutionized.
well, it made it a lot easier.
Well-
You didn't need a dark room.
Do
Yeah,
you still
yeah.
do? Do you still do any film?
No,
No, not at
no,
all.
no, only
Some
digital.
people are purists and love to go back and.
They
find
are.
the
I don't
cameras
really
and-
know why. Maybe I just didn't spend enough time back then to feel what I was losing. So that hasn't bothered me to
But
be digital.
the business certainly has changed,
Mhm.
and now everybody wants to be a photographer.
Well,
In
it's
the
so
old
much
days,
more
there were
accessible.
2 or 3 in a community, and some were very good. And now with digital cameras the way they are, you can take pretty darn good pictures
Well,
just
there
by
are
chance.
telephones.
Yeah, think about it.
It's on your phone. Very good cameras
Yeah.
on phones. So, yeah.
But you've always had that passion.
Well, yeah, I think it was suppressed for a long time, like 30-some years.
Yeah, but I wonder if-
it raised
I
its
wonder
head.
if it's a built-in yearning to save that history, that moment in history. You know, you can get wax philosophical about what photography is and why we why we want pictures. Some people go through their entire lifetimes and have productive lives and never have taken one picture.
Sure, yeah.
And others of us just like to capture those moments. That's why it pleases me to see all these videos that Calvin has done. I mean, thousands and thousands of videos. How many altogether, Cal?
20,000.
20,000 separate videos over the years. But for the sake of posterity, and even
Right,
though
without them.
even though you and I plan to live a very long life,
Yes.
it's nice
still-
to think that that those who come after us will be able to link into your photographs and see what you saw.
It is nice to think about.
Yeah, and the way you compose a picture, I suppose, has to do with your perspective too. But I don't know if that
Yeah.
it has an effect when you go to a place like Cuba. You say, "Ooh, there's one. Who's there?" Probably.
Well, it does. You want to have, when you go to someplace new or someplace like Cuba or someplace that's so different, you're definitely overwhelmed with everything you see. And so you need to, which you can't capture
Yeah.
in a shot or however many shots. But so it's, at least the way I approach it and the way I was taught to approach it, you take a lot of pictures to try to get to the essence of what you're seeing, or something that conveys the experience but doesn't try to physically document or capture everything. So it's not so much a documentarian approach.
So aside from having some of your photographs in magazines, have you actually published any of your photographs in your own books? Or thought about it?
No, I have a website,
Yeah.
but no, I haven't. Well, I had some books made, a couple of books made for myself, but not that, just a one-shot kind of thing. But not that, not a book to sell or to distribute in any
So
way.
when was Cuba?
When was Cuba?
When?
A year ago. January last year I went to
Because I
Cuba.
know a group of my friends got back fairly recently from the Historical Association and others, Jerry Favreau's.
Yeah, she went with Arch
Yeah.
from Keysville. She went with
Yep.
Arch. Yes. Yeah. They
And-
just went, seemed like, isn't the chamber is going
I think
at
so,
some
yeah.
point, but this year.
Well, up until fairly recently, you almost had to sign a waiver saying you were going to study history or do something.
Well, you still do.
beyond-
That hasn't
Yeah,
changed.
But it will. I
Well,
think
only
that-
if Congress changes
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
So it's not
a lot of-
likely.
A lot of.
No, it's still, you can't just, an American can't just go and be a tourist by yourself. You have to go with a organization of some kind, and that organization has to be approved by the U.S. government as a people-to-people program, which is arts-oriented. I mean, it makes it interesting, and you have
Oh, sure.
access, probably, we did, and others do, access to people and events and organizations that you wouldn't if you just showed up on your own. Yeah, so,
Yeah, so you don't think that'll change? God knows what the future's going to hold, and on the
Well,
political spectrum in the future, and it's.
no. I mean,
we
certainly a
haven't
lot
seen-
of business people and a lot of farmers, as I understand it, do want to open up the market of Cuba. So
I guess
they're
so.
in favor of loosening the restrictions. So if Congress starts listening to them, then maybe they'll do it. I mean, that's they're, more the kind of what interest groups that usually support some of the Republican congressmen. So anyway, I'm not getting into the politics of it, but that is
Yeah.
still required,
Well,
and you actually have to sign a
Yeah.
paper saying that that's the way in which you're going.
So how big was your group?
It was small. It was 9 people, including our photographer. I went with a small photography group. And it was a Canadian photographer, Richard Martin, and there were 4 Americans and 4 Canadians, and Richard.
And it was a short time? How long?
10 days.
Oh, that wouldn't
It's
even
really
get me
interesting.
tuned up, I don't think.
Went to Havana and for half the time, and the city of Trinidad in Cuba, that's on the southern coast of Cuba. Very colorful, very interesting, 500-year-old city, very attractive.
That's
for the other half.
wonderful. So you took how many pictures down there?
5,214.
No, you did not.
You didn't know what the answer would be, did you? No, I
Are you
did.
kidding me?
It was a photography group. That's what we did all day. No, I'm not kidding you.
So are you saying we might be here until next Wednesday
No,
afternoon?
so whittling it down to select some for the website, select
Yeah.
some for the
Yeah.
slideshow, to just a couple of hundred, was a lot of time and effort.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
We
that's-
spent hours every day shooting.
Oh,
That
that's
was-
just terrific. I love
was,
it.
it
Can't
was.
wait to see him. I've looked forward to this day for a long, long time.
Good.
It's Penny Clute sitting with us at Comfort Inn. Our thanks to the guys who own the place for allowing us to use this room. And we're going to show some pictures and chat a little bit about Cuba, okay?
Great.
All right,
Great.
hang in there, folks.
You want me to
So,
describe?
through the magical eye of Penny Clute's camera, we're going on a tour of Cuba, starting with Havana. When did you go anyway? When was it?
I went January 2015, a little over a year ago.
So about a
from when
year
we're
ago.
talking. Yeah, for
Oh.
10 days, and went to 2 cities, Havana and Trinidad. And I went with a small photography group, and I spent many hours taking photographs.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, we're there with you.
Okay, so there's a seawall, and this is, I think, the Bay of Cuba. Florida's off to
Yes.
the north. So there is a walkway behind the seawall all along there, and it extends farther downtown. And it's called the Malecón. And people hang out there a lot. There's an old fort called El Morro that you can see that's next to the Malecón. We were there one evening near sunset. These guys are taking selfies. There was a cruise ship out in the
I
bay.
love it with a silhouette. That's great.
Irina, she came up and talked to us, and she was playing the guitar there. That's the hotel I stayed in. Very nice hotel. It's a Spanish chain called Iberostar. Some of the Havana taxis.
Oh, yeah, I love them, love the old cars.
Well, I'll be showing you many.
That's great.
Some of them, yes,
Oh.
are in great shape. But these were the best, I think. Aren't they beauties?
Oh, that's all they had to work with for so long.
Well, they had to make parts. So this is kind of we're higher up in a building, an overview of the city.
How big is Havana?
You know,
You don't know how
I'm
many
thinking
people.
it's 1 million, but I'm not
Uh-huh,
sure.
so
Maybe
it's
it's 3
sizable
million.
anyway,
Yes,
yeah.
it's quite large, by far larger than anything else. There's Fidel, and the flag, Cuban flag. This was, upstairs is this lovely restaurant, but this is what it looks like on the
Oh, just
entranceway.
decaying the buildings.
And
like
you walk
said.
upstairs and, you know, you're worried that it's really being held
Oh,
up safely.
My.
We went up to the very nice restaurant, we turned around and came back down 15 minutes later, and all of these cloths were hanging. The restaurants in there, Marilyn Monroe picture, this was from that restaurant. So there's this glitzy place within the building that's falling apart.
Oh, my.
This is the National Theater in the evening, lighted up. That's their capitol behind it, but, so, very attractive. Then we
Did you have
went
good
to a
weather?
ballet school.
Did you have good weather?
We did have good weather.
Yeah, there you go.
We went to a ballet school in Havana. We were able to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours there just taking photographs while they did their regular workouts and rehearsals. They had younger girls who came and sat on a bench near me. The girls, we were sitting taking pictures, and we started with the younger girls first, and then we were going upstairs. It was getting to be twilight, so the light, and we were using natural light. So all the other, I saw my group going on up the stairs, and I happened to be sitting on a bench opposite that doorway, and I think, oh, they're leaving. So I get up to go, and all of a sudden, all these little girls came and sat
Oh, isn't
down
that-
next
I
to me.
love it.
And I don't speak Spanish. I took Spanish in high school, but I
Well,
remember very little. And somebody asked me where I was from, though. I understood that they were asking me that, and I said, I think I said New York or USA, and there was kind of this blank, and I said Nueva York. Oh, and everybody
see,
smiled.
Isn't
And,
that amazing?
and you know, with a camera, you can turn it around, and I have a big camera, but you can turn it around and show people what picture you took. So they were sitting there smiling at me. I could tell that they obviously wanted their picture taken, but they were too close, and I'm trying to back up. And so I would back up, and they would move closer. So I
That
took
was a
a
little
couple
dance
pictures.
of its
It was
own, wasn't it,
And I
Boaz?
turned and showed them the picture, and then they were really beaming. And the rest of the girls came running over then. They wanted their picture taken too, and I was the only one left in the room because
Oh,
everybody
come
else
on.
had gone upstairs, the only photographer. So I'm
and-
taking people's pictures.
And the vast majority are not, they don't understand or speak English. They speak only Spanish.
No, I don't think that's so about the vast majority.
Really?
Those kids didn't speak English, but from what our guide told us, English is commonly taught. It's a very educated society.
No kidding.
And
That's
many people
interesting.
speak English. We certainly
Wow.
ran into some people who didn't.
Yeah.
But the English, the enemy's language,
Isn't that
is taught in
something?
school.
Oh, I love it, okay. So why is this picture black and white? Or is it black and
It
white?
is black and white on purpose to more emphasize the form, the lines, not be distracted by the color.
I love black and white photography.
To not be distracted by the color. To
Yeah,
just,
I love it.
Focus
Okay.
on the lines. So these are the older girls upstairs and, performing in the ballet.
Look at this.
It was
love
kind. I love the smiles
Oh,
on
I
people.
love it.
Thank you.
Oh, just fabulous.
And I did that way on purpose. I wanted to show the movement
Sure.
that they're making. So, yeah. So this is color, but
Yeah.
not much color, gold and white. But so just walking on the street, saw this car.
I feel
Don't
good.
know what it was.
I don't know. I love it. Look at this.
This is walking on the street, looking
Look
in
at
an open
this.
door, and there's all this art. Upstairs, there's an art gallery.
Aha.
This one is kind of funny, and we'll see something later that connects it. This is the Bacardi building, when Bacardi
Oh, yeah.
was in Cuba making rum, and apparently, from what they told us, the bat is the symbol of the Bacardi family. Now this, I think it's empty now. It certainly went, the Cuban Revolution was January 1, 1959, and everything was nationalized. So private business was seized and nationalized. So Bacardi hasn't been there since 1959. But the exterior of the building is in good shape. And there's a bat on the top, and we'll come to another bat soon. Here we went to a dance performance. The Havana Compass Dance Company.
I can hear it in my mind. I love it.
And actually, I have, so this was very percussive, drums and
Yeah.
sticks a lot. These chairs have wooden backs and wooden seats, and they would use the chairs
sure,
as
of
drums
course.
too. It was great. It was very, very nice. So we were there. Their performance was about half an hour, but then we could stay and take more pictures. You'll see some are kind of posed pictures after. And the smiles on everybody just are
yes.
wonderful. The colors, you know. Look at these kids. You know, this is the
Oh,
up and coming
look at this.
dancers. Yeah. Now, this is Ernest Hemingway's favorite bar in
Oh,
Havana, the Floridita.
okay.
This is Hemingway's home in a place called Finca Vigia.
You did the tour
About
of the home?
15. Well, you can't go. We went to it. You can't go inside. You can go outside and look through the windows,
Aha.
which is how it's run by the government now.
Yeah.
And all the objects inside were Hemingway's. It was the same as he left it last time he was there in 1960.
Papa.
So tell me if you want me to stop at a car.
Oh, I love to see them all. So.
This is Hemingway's boat, the Pilar, his fishing boat.
Oh, yes.
It had a plate. It was made in Brooklyn.
Huh?
This is a little coastal town very close by called Cojamar, where he kept his fishing boat and where he hung out with the fishermen.
this, look
Very
at
old
this.
fort
Oh,
there.
look at
Yeah,
this.
from like, I don't know, 1500, something like that. This is Hemingway, and the story we were told is that when Hemingway's death was known, and told back to the people, which I think was 1961, the fishermen, he had hung out with the fishermen a lot and fished there a lot. So he was very well loved. And when he won the Nobel Prize for
Oh, yes.
Old Man in the Sea, which was set in Cojamar, the place that I just showed you with the old fort, he dedicated the prize to the people of Cuba.
I did not know
So
that.
I didn't either.
Oh,
So he is
my God.
very loved in Cuba.
Wonderful, yes.
This
That's-
bust, this is a bronze or brass bust made from brass boat fittings donated by all the different fishermen.
special meaning.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah,
Love it.
and there's a little outdoor. It's got columns and kind of a roof kind of thing, and his bust is there. It was very
Yes,
interesting.
they loved him there. That's why I said Papa before,
Yeah. This is the remains of. This is right downtown, walking around. A building has collapsed and been cleared out. This is one of the newer restaurants right next to old stuff. This gentleman, we're just walking around the streets. I took this picture. This is do not pass. I took a picture and he waved me over. I mean, doesn't look very friendly there particularly, but he waved me over and he opened up his his wire there, and he wanted me to look at, he's saying this in Spanish and motioning, but he wanted me to come in closer and see the picture of Fidel.
Is it amazing?
So we've got Che Guevara. Che's picture is everywhere.
Of course.
Fidel's is not.
No, come on.
No, there's not that much. So that was kind of cool. He motioned me in, and
What is he
went
selling
in.
there?
I don't remember if it's soap or
I'm gonna
some
say
kind of food.
Little bags of marijuana or
Maybe
heroin?
Well, no, I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
It may be some kind of food, or
Yeah.
there's bottles of drinks. Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
just a little
So
shop.
they welcome
I think
you.
a fruit shop.
For the most part, they
Quite
welcome
welcoming.
you with open arms and
I
huge smiles.
happened a manicure hairdresser place. So I took these pictures because they're painted and they're new looking. Took this picture because I couldn't believe that somebody could walk around with an American flag. That
Yeah.
we're supposed to be the enemy. This is our state ration store
Oh,
that our guide took us to, that we could just walk to, and it lists the items that are there. It was, kind of fraying around the edges. There was also in the window off to the side, there were loaves of bread. So everybody has a ration card. He said not everybody uses it and goes to the ration store. They have other sources of food, but if you need it, you get, I don't remember, 2 loaves of bread.
Reminiscent of
there's
World War II
toothpaste.
when I was a child, when everybody had ration cards and ration
Well,
books.
this is a communist
Yeah,
country.
sure.
So there's that, base level
Yep.
of provisions, really.
Mm-hmm.
There's also cheap cigars and toothpaste there,
Oh.
but there's food. But yes, the week I went, actually, was the same, a year ago, was the same week that the U.S. State Department delegation came to start the talks.
Oh, come on.
No, it was
little
exactly that
historical all
week.
by
So
itself,
these
wasn't it?
pictures are right on the
Yeah.
cusp of change,
Oh,
right on the verge
great.
of things going to
great.
change. Small restaurant, they call them paladars, the private
Yes.
restaurants that Raul Castro authorized. This is a taxi. He authorized them about 5, 6 years ago. That was the first. We stumbled on one of the squares, stumbled into this art exhibit, The Art of Tolerance, United Buddy Bears. And each bear, it's like the cows or the Adirondack
like they
chairs
do
being
in-
painted.
Yeah. Look at
This is the Cuban Buddy Bear,
Look at the color.
smoking a cigar.
My, my, my.
So each country, or many, every country had a bear that they painted. You can see there's around a whole big square, there are all these
Oh,
bears.
fabulous.
This boring one is Canada. The Canadians were with us, so we looked for, this boring plaid was Canada.
Oh, my goodness.
Some of them are very, very vibrant. And
That
people were
to me is
looking at
amazing.
them.
That's worth the whole show for me. I love the
Oh.
color. Wow. Like the cows in Burlington and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very similar kind of thing, although the theme was tolerant. This one is the American, that's the Statue of Liberty. The bear is holding a
Oh, I
torch.
see. Yeah, sure.
And people were kind of standing in line to pose with the USA Buddy Bear. It just surprised me.
Yeah.
So I think our Cuban people are very eager to have change and to have a relationship with the United States, and pleased that their government is allowing it now.
Very interesting.
These guys, a peddler on the street was selling these little puppies. So this
Look
was
at
a typical street scene, conveying,
Oh, my goodness.
transporting goods somewhere.
That's like almost like a National Geographic photograph.
This is a
They all are.
more common building front, not in great shape. Another collapsed building area. And see how rough things look. Maybe 50 years of deferred maintenance does
Yeah,
that.
Sure.
We were told that, like this was a big building on a corner, that the scaffolding had been there for years.
Isn't that
It's
almost
not like it was under, there's trees growing out of it.
Oh, my goodness. Almost like the Flatiron Building in New York.
Yeah.
Very interesting, yeah.
This was an interesting street that had murals of of people. This lady's smoking a big cigar.
Oh.
We asked her if we could take her picture. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, love it.
I love this car.
Oh, look at that Chevy. Oh, wow.
It's got these cool
Oh,
eyebrows
yeah.
on its
Oh, that's great.
on its headlights. And there's the other kind of taxi. They're really tricycles,
Sure.
with seats in the back. Walking along, this street was dug up to make, I guess, to lay pipe. One of the few,
Even for
an
that.
older Fidel
Yep.
mural. Another guy with a taxi. Maybe you see the next one here. I can see it coming.
Oh,
There's
Yeah.
this beautiful Edsel.
oh my goodness, look at that.
I don't know how I get that off the bottom, but
That's fine.
Che,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
painted on a wall. It's the classic poster that
Sure.
you see everywhere. So the same week that the U.S. government is there at the invitation of Castro to talk about opening things up, there's this one and there'll be another. There are several billboards. So the embargo they called a blockade,
Sure.
bloqueo. These to me look like fresh signs. They did not look weathered.
Really?
So here's Cuba punching out
Heard you
Uncle
were coming.
Sam.
Oh my
At the
goodness.
same time, they're saying,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, sure.
let's change
A
things.
little dichotomy there.
So the propaganda definitely still there.
Yep.
Something about in defense of the revolution. This is Fidel with Hugo Chavez, the now late president of Argentina. This is really the strongest
Oh boy.
billboard I saw.
Yep.
I didn't notice till I actually had it on the laptop. Cuba is within this noose. I saw the noose
Yeah.
and the blockade. This is translated to the longest genocide in history. Those are strong words,
Oh, powerful.
I think. And that was a shiny new sign.
Oh my.
So the propaganda, somehow Raul Castro, Mandela, Fidel, and
Oh,
Chavez,
Oh yeah.
somehow he's going to try balancing this. Che, this is the town, the city of Cienfuegos, which was on the road from Havana to Trinidad. And now we'll have some more car pictures. There was a place we would go in the mornings
I
as
love
the
it.
taxis were picking people up. Give you an idea. So some are in great shape, not
How
all.
they kept these cars going and putting new engines, and a lot of them have diesel
Rebuilt.
engines in them now. Yeah.
Yes, we were told that. Some have boat engines in them.
Oh,
See how
really?
bad
Look at
the
this.
building is. They need money. The infrastructure
How beautiful those
is
buildings
terrible.
were
Yeah.
in their heyday.
This building's all covered with growing things,
Sure.
trees and bushes and there's Che Guevara on kid's t-shirt. This is the Revolution Museum. We didn't go into it, but a museum honoring the Cuban Revolution, and I'm not great on my Cuban history, but I understand that this truck, I don't remember if it was a bread truck or some kind of truck, was part of the early revolutionary. It shot up. It's a truck that shot up that had
Oh, I see.
revolutionaries in
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's some kind of tank. There's some other vehicles. Far as I think people are living there. We were told there was really quite a housing shortage in Havana. This is an old cigar factory.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There are dogs everywhere on the streets of Havana. They all look very similar. They're all this size. They have a tail that curls up. Now, this is an art gallery, really a modern art gallery. This man is painting. He's improving this particular storefront, or building front. This was a nice little cafe on one of the, this is near the square with the Buddy Bears. When I took this picture, it was in an old colonial section near an old cathedral. I thought it was a fountain.
That's what I thought.
And just recently, I was looking up some other word to make sure I knew the meaning and was spelling it right. And I said, oh, look up this word. It means mailbox. So
Oh,
apparently he's a
you gotta
mailbox. You
be
put your
kidding.
mail in the mouth.
You gotta be kidding.
So I don't know what period, that's from a couple hundred years ago, I'd
man.
say. Yeah. So that makes it even more
I'm so
cool.
glad you looked it up. I would forever think it was
Bouzon.
waiting for water to come
There
out.
are many places along the street that there are cannons stuck in, barrel
Yeah.
first, as barriers.
Wow.
This is a square that's known for its booksellers. And so there's many used books here. Most of them have something to do with Fidel and the revolution. This particular dog has this big plastic thing. It basically has a tag saying it belongs to somebody. See, this seems to be under active renovation. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't the architecture
the
beautiful
architecture.
there? There is a crane on this one, so hopefully that's one that will, just fantastic. Now these buildings are either new or have been recently refurbished and painted. They're just beautiful too. Then compared to a more typical one, and it looks to me like there's electricity and TV things that somebody actually lives
How do
there.
parts of these buildings not fall down and kill
Some
people?
do. We were told
My
that
goodness.
every day a building falls down.
Really?
So the new and the old, they're not new buildings. The better kept up and the
I
older.
see, yes.
We went out one morning at dawn to the harbor where people fish. These fellows
Great,
are fishing,
great
and
picture,
across the
great
bay is
picture. Wow.
an oil refinery. This is the Russian embassy,
Oh, come on.
and you can't really, well, there's a fence there, but the building comes down, like, it doesn't go straight down. There's like a pedestal that holds up.
I
These
see.
are all listening devices, apparently, aimed at us, I think.
Okay.
I don't know how active it is anymore. No, they're old. That one's a Ford. There were lots of Chevys.
Yep.
But you can see, now this guy, I love that his clothes, he has his
Huh?
clothes match his
Match the
car.
car, sure.
Red and white.
Ooh,
And this is
now
one
we're-
that's not functioning as well. So this is a hotel, I think, here. The building behind it looks good. And this guy was trying to get his taxi going. I rode in this one.
Did you really, the pink one?
Yeah.
I love
The
it.
ride is very rough
Oh.
as it shifts through gears.
Of course.
This is the Christopher Cologne Cemetery, Christopher Columbus. I looked it up after. It was established in 1876. There's 140 acres.
You're kidding me. That's a
It's
big one.
right in Havana.
Wow.
Has more than 1 million internments, and it's very well known for its sculpture on the crypts, and,
You know, a lot of
and there are
great-
many angels.
A lot of art in
So,
Cuba.
so we spent.
You've
quite-
given me an education in that respect. With the,
This
with
is
the
a
ballet.
firefighter memorial. There was a fatal fire, like in 1898, something like that, and a big monument to the firefighters that died. And this is somebody's
Yep.
crypt.
Look at this. With the tip of the wing broken off.
Yeah. I mean, these are large
You
sculptures.
got an eye, Penny Clute.
Oh,
You got an
thank you.
eye. That's
Well,
beautiful.
I've been working on
Just
it.
beautiful.
This is still in the cemetery. I was just reflecting a building. It was so shiny that it was
You're like
reflecting
I am.
something.
I love to walk through
And
cemeteries.
here's, recognize
There's
him?
that again.
Yep.
How about
This
that?
is the Bacardi family
Yeah,
tomb.
I love it. That's amazing.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim. This is a 24-karat gold-domed church built by the Russians in the 1980s.
Oh, boy.
They didn't spend money on food, they put a gold-domed church
Sure.
there. That was at Revolution Square,
Yep.
the big monument. This is the side of a building on Revolution Square. This is Che on the side of a building, and at night they're lighted up. The Cienfuegos and Che Guevara. And there happen to be some young tourists come. They're sitting here with their fist raised in front of the Che.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, that's something about the revolution is an indestructible reality. This is the street where we would go in the mornings and take pictures of the cars,
Uh-huh.
mostly, and these buildings as background. Over on the right, I think there'll be a picture next, is their capital. But so many taxis, I don't know the name of the street, but it's a major street, and so many taxis would come along and pick people up. The nicer taxis, the tourists ride in, those that are, I knew there were classic American cars there, but I had no idea how many. And there's very few other cars. Those are the cars that are there. So you see lots of them in Havana, and the ones that aren't in the best shape still are taxis, and they pick up the local people, and they stop several places till they fill up the taxi. And then you get
Don't
dropped
love it?
off wherever you
Sure.
need to go. Here's their capital. It's been like this for decades, apparently. It's modeled after the U.S. Capitol. I don't know why they didn't tear it down, given their politics.
Yeah.
See, there's a building that people live in. Look, there's clothes hanging there. It's very rough conditions. There were a few little food stands that we saw as we walked around. There's a tricycle cart delivering pineapples. Just an interesting door.
Yeah.
Some workers'
A
union
little
kind of
graffiti
thing.
here, huh? Look at this.
The peddler,
Sure.
a different peddler was selling birds. Then we went to a boxing gymnasium.
Oh
And we were
my,
there for an
come
hour and a half,
on.
2 hours. This is
Isn't
open
that-
air, there's no
Yeah.
roof in there. And we got to spend 2 hours moving around, taking whatever pictures we wanted of these young men and their coach training. It was interesting.
Well, they've turned out some great boxers and
They have, it's
baseball players and
very important in that, yes,
Look at
for
this.
decades it's been very important in that country. Remember, was it Teofilo Stevenson from the
Yep.
Olympics?
Yep.
Around 1960,
absolutely,
maybe?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Very tall. Nice.
And this is right in town, right on the main street or near the main street?
Right in in Havana,
Yeah.
right, yeah. It's the Rafael Trejo Gymnasium.
And the main, is
and
the main,
having-
look at this. Fabulous. What a study.
Thank you. Boxing lessons, all kinds of sports or arts lessons are free. Education's free, healthcare is free, arts and sports are free, so kids can, sign up and take the lessons they want, as I understand it. He's the coach.
Gee, that's great. I've never dreamed there would be such a thing. This is amazing to me.
It was really an eye-opening.
That's wonderful.
I like that.
Gosh.
You can see the condition of their gym. You don't need a whole, here's an old sink on
Yeah.
the floor, the wall, and there was no roof. And you can hardly see through the mirror, but you can see enough to do shadow boxing.
Yeah?
They're posing for us. The Black Prince of the Ring. So that's this guy who's the coach. Then this is a block long art block, Afro-Cuban art. And there's murals,
Oh
there's
my
sculptures, it's
goodness,
like
look.
found material kind of sculpture.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, right next to it, here's Che, here's a sign about Batista. That was in the building next to it. Viva la Revolucion.
Yeah. So nobody told you, don't take a picture of this? No kidding.
No.
Carte blanche.
Here's the revolution. Che again. So then we had, but on the revolution for a second, let me move. I started taking pictures of the signs I was seeing, and it wasn't like they were everywhere. It's not like, the revolution, Big Brother is every place. But I still think, but there were some. This looks fresher, that old Viva Fidel one. But then I started realizing there aren't any other kinds of signs. There's only signs about the revolution or reminding you about the revolution. So then I'm thinking too, well, what are our signs about? Our signs are advertising. There's no goods. There's nothing to buy. There's nothing to advertise.
Good point.
So, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
So through our guide, we met a local Cuban photographer who offered to arrange to have a ballerina pose for us. And he said he knew a lady who lived in a mansion. This is her mansion. It's kind of decaying. And a young ballerina. And we said yes. And so inside,
Just
though,
look
look
at the ceiling. Look at the lath.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is in the kitchen. This is
Oh,
this
you
stair.
are kidding me.
So this lovely,
Oh,
once lovely mansion that she
Oh.
has lived in for decades. Not this lady, the lady who
Yeah.
owns it. And this young woman then posed for us, and we got to take pictures of
Just,
her. And
look, classic. Oh my, come on.
But,
Like
people have
Each
nothing.
one is like a painting,
Mhm.
Look at this.
This was the stairway within the mansion.
Yeah.
That once must have been quite grand,
I can imagine.
but no money. The lady was a widow. Her husband only died like a year and a half earlier, I think, but yeah, I don't know
And this
anything
is-
more about them. I don't know
Oh,
why
I
they
see.
stayed, why
Yeah.
they didn't leave. They've been able to stay in their own house, I guess. So that, one more
Those are
ballerina.
wonderful
So
pictures.
that's Havana, so some people, and I'd like to show you some of Trinidad, if that,
Well, that's
you have time for
wonderful.
that?
Why don't we just pause for a moment
Sure.
and we'll pick it up in Trinidad. Thank you so much for the first part of our tour through Havana. When we pause just for a moment, again, I want to thank Mr. Murray and Jim Murray, and Terry Miron for allowing us to come here to Comfort Inn when we need to. They're dear friends for a long time.
It's very
speaking-
generous, yeah.
Speaking about friends, we covered it when Terry Miron had a news conference saying, I think I'd like to build a Comfort Inn. And that was not
boy.
yesterday, and then we lived through the horror of his fire and the fact that he rose like the
He
phoenix,
rebuilt.
kept most of the people who worked here, and there's transformations happening all the time, so it's great for them to do that. Second thing I want to mention now and again before we finish is your website. Tell me about it.
I have a website on which I have all these Cuba pictures that
Yes.
you're seeing. Actually,
Yeah.
right now we're doing a slideshow of the two main Cuba galleries that are on there. But I've also been to New Zealand, and there are pictures from there, and an area called San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. But other things, fall foliage and many kinds of things. So there's a website, I can write it down for you, but it's Penelope Clute Fine Art Photography .zenfolio.com. It's better if you see it. That will get you there. And it's really a gallery that you can browse through and see
Well,
photographs.
you've certainly piqued my interest, and I know you have, and many other people who watch this show. And it's liable to be seen anywhere on the face of the earth through the
Is that
beauty of
right?
through the beauty of YouTube and Facebook and all the fun things like HometownCableNetwork.com. And it always pleases me to see what responses we get and how many views we get on some of these
Ah.
things. So Calvin has created an interest in many other countries because, as you know, Plattsburgh and Clinton County has been kind of a melting pot for a long time, especially when the air base was here.
Sure.
You know, all those people bringing their cultures here and then leaving from here when the base closed and go elsewhere. So there's a little bit of pining for what was their home for a while, and lots of people have been through this area, moved away or gone to big cities and sought the greener grass on the other side of the road, and they love to see things, and that's why Calvin shows some of the programs that we did way back in the 1990s and 1980s in his case. So I hope people will be further enriched by going to your website. I'll bet you if they just type Penelope Clute, that it'll direct them, send them in the right direction.
That'd be a good way to start. Penelope Clute Fine Art
Fine art,
Photography.
that would do it.
Get you there,
Yeah,
Spell Clute, though.
Clute.
right? And Penelope is
Yeah, as well, Penelope. Come on.
Penelope.
Yeah.
But Zenfolio is the site that the photography website is
So
through.
you've been
ZEN.
developing this site for years.
Certainly 3 or 4 years. Once I got comfortable showing my photographs to other people and was getting good response, I decided to do a website. And there's a guest book there. People can sign
there
in.
is.
People can send me a
So
message.
they can respond to you. Wonderful.
Yes, and if they'd like, I do have my photographs exhibited in real life. I recently had a show at the Strand in January.
Yes.
I've got a couple things
We're
coming up
so
this
proud
summer.
of the Strand, aren't we?
We are. Got a couple things coming up this summer, and I'm a member of the Adirondack Art Association in Essex, so in the summers I have photographs there. But I keep I've created a group email list that I let people know when I'm showing my photographs places, so if anybody would like to be on my email list, they can let me know that through the website too.
And the most ubiquitous of all social sites, Facebook. You're on Facebook.
I am on Facebook.
Daily.
My photographs aren't, but
No.
I'm on Facebook.
Well, you have so many interests in so many things. You haven't let any grass grow.
No,
At all.
I'm not interested in.
But you've
yeah.
always had wide interests, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I've always.
That's good. How can you not?
To me, it's more stimulating and interesting to do more than one thing at a
Oh,
time.
my goodness.
Not at the same moment, but that's why I like writing about the law, doing photography, researching history. To me, that's a good balance for me.
Now, did you say, are you going to announce that you're going to where you told me you were going to go when the camera was off, or is that going to be a secret or what?
Well, it's not a secret. I don't know that it warrants an announcement.
Oh, come
but
on.
I'm going to be going to Morocco
Does that warrant an announcement of dancing in the streets?
on a photography trip.
How many people will have that opportunity? You and John and
Yeah.
another, same group or another group?
Well, the same leader,
Aha.
the same photographer, Richard Martin, and I think, again, only about 8 people, so
Oh, what an interesting, wonderful
Canadians
life.
and Americans.
And for those people who are watching this program who may have thought that Penny Clute faded into the background once that other
Pardon?
professional career was ending, ain't so, folks. It's wonderful. So every day's a
Thank you,
holiday for
Gordy.
you. That's just great. So where are we going to next?
Next, we're going to Trinidad, Cuba,
Okay.
which was about a 5-hour bus ride from Havana. Havana's on the northern coast of Cuba, 90 miles from Key West, as we know, and Trinidad is on the southern coast, kind of the island goes east and west. So it's kind of mid-center of the island of Cuba. And I believe that Trinidad is a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO
Yes,
World
yes, it
Heritage
is.
Site. It's 500 years old, the city. The Spanish ruled Cuba. It was a colony of Spain for hundreds of years. And so some of the architecture in Havana as well as in Trinidad is from the Spanish times. Their 500th anniversary, or birthday, in fact, was in 2014. So 1514 was when Trinidad was first settled. And it's in great shape. I'm guessing that some of it was to perk it up for 2014. I went in the beginning of 2015. But even without that, it looks to be in better shape than Havana, where we saw so many falling down buildings and just poorly maintained. You know, the shutters were falling apart. There was no paint. The plaster was coming off. You don't really see that so much or hardly at all in Trinidad. So Trinidad, has cobblestone streets. Still, we'll see some more streets. Tile roofs. People
Music.
sitting. There's a man playing the
There's
guitar.
a great music. in
One of
Cuba.
our walks. Bicycle. I took this because of the wooden extra seat
Look at
connected
that.
to the bar of the
Wow.
bicycle. Just a shadow from the cactus.
Yeah.
This was around sunrise
Got the
time.
photographer's eye.
He had, as you can see, a giant cigar
Cigar's bigger than
and a
he-
bunny rabbit
Oh
in his
my
hands.
God, come on.
He's just walking up the street.
I love it.
Very colorful walls and
Yes.
doors and things in Trinidad. This is a group of young men who are playing dominoes. I did this one in black and white, also just to emphasize,
Oh, sure.
and took only their hands, so to emphasize what the
Oh.
game was. I played dominoes when I was a kid, but I do not remember how to play
Oh,
dominoes.
right.
Somebody pointed out to me that they're using dominoes like cards. That they're not
Oh,
playing what we would think of as
I see.
dominoes.
Yeah, there
I
are
don't
so
know.
many games, yeah.
Yeah. This man has, we'll see a close-up, but he's selling garlic. He's walking along
Oh,
the street
come
with
on.
long strands of garlic. We went out in the mornings often to get the shadows
Shadows and
of
silhouettes.
the grills
Oh, my, yes.
and street portraits of
Yes.
people around. For some reason, there was a tractor sitting there near the square, and I liked the shadow of the
I
tractor.
love the shadow of the tractor.
This young girl, this was actually in the countryside, and she was that's her school uniform. She was in school. This is a couple. She's got a cigar in her hand. They were in Trinidad. They were Richard, who's gone there many times before, knew them from before, and he wanted us to be sure to go by their house. They, greeted us. Were
Great
smiling.
faces,
Loved
great
to have their
faces.
picture taken. Shadows. Just a man walking through there. The green hat.
Oh, love it.
Another cigar smoker. Lots of cigars in Trinidad.
Yeah.
So this was typical. In Havana, it was typical to see the vintage American cars. In Trinidad, it's typical to see horses and carts. This is one of the few fruit stands we saw, and the lady weighing the fruit. Another horse and cart. Che Guevara
Yep.
in the hats. Another horse. Looks like he's got onions or something like that in his cart. He's making a delivery. Can't see it because of the way this is, but there's a black cat at the bottom.
Oh, really?
And I have a black cat.
I
so
missed
that's
that one, okay.
This is the photograph I won the juried show at the Strand this fall with this photograph.
Look at
This young man is selling roses. She just bought roses, and he's handing her change.
That's great. So many
So it
things
was
going on
very,
there.
very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
And then he's walking down the street with his girlfriend, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yep.
And the roses.
So many studies in the faces. Just
Yeah.
wonderful. Look at this. Look at this.
There's a big bell tower in Trinidad, and this is just one of that you can climb up on, walk up to. And this is just one of the parts. These are some of the typical dogs. There are also dogs all over in Trinidad. don't know if they live on the street or we were walking by one morning and the door, this is the elementary school, and the door was open. We were just walking along the street, and one of the people in our group went inside and then called. I just kept going, as did other people, and called us to come back, that they invited us to come in. And then when we came in the doorway, they said, "Oh, go in the class." So we went in the class, took several pictures. They asked if there was, the principal asked if we could make a donation.
Of course.
And one of the people asked, actually, I was urged, was recommended to us ahead of time to bring pencils and pens and
I imagine
toothpaste, things like that.
they're poorly equipped.
So we didn't happen to have that with us that morning, so somebody had some money, gave them some money, and we said we would come back the next day with
Isn't
pencils
that
and paper.
amazing? We saw the same thing in Mexico. Just so many. Look at this.
Given.
Oh, of course.
There's a I don't know,
Yeah.
a horse stand of some kind.
Sure.
This one I liked. I didn't even see everything that was in it till after. So here's a horse and cart, and they're taking something out. Underneath is a little dog. In the background is a young boy. And here's one of the old cars. So here's the cobblestone street.
You have to take time to look, don't you?
Oh. This was a newly painted and refurbished place. The colors are wonderful and carefully done.
Oh, sure.
You know? And
reminiscent of some of the things you see in New Orleans with all the colors and the iron
And the
work
grill,
so
yes.
on, yeah.
there are no screens or glass at the windows. There's shutters and different kinds of grills. And so in the daytime, if people are home, they open their shutters. There's Shay. There's a tricycle taxi.
Everything wide open.
There's the street with the
Yeah.
cobblestone, and you can see the colorful. That's a kid going to school in the morning.
Look at
There's
this.
Che on the back of that.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Che's on everything. These kids are going to school. She's commuting somewhere. That's the transport that they're. Those folks are going to work or something. It's one of the few trucks I saw,
Oh,
actually. I was just practicing. This was a photography group, so practicing getting the person in motion.
uh-huh.
Isn't he
Oh,
interesting?
look
He was
at
a
that.
street
What a
cleaner.
classic picture, huh?
He was a street cleaner.
What a portrait. This
Again,
worked
somebody's
out,
moving in
yeah.
motion, but the fancy grill.
Of course. Oh, that's beautiful. Lots of horses.
See, he's selling oranges.
Oh my, see how he's got them stacked.
This was a corner bar, and it was literally on a corner. It opened on this side, and it opened from the side that we're looking.
Yeah.
This was one of the worst buildings I saw in Trinidad. Probably the worst building. I don't know if it's of
Just
a different
hovels,
age or hadn't been
yeah.
taken care of. This lady had a shop and was making hats. Great smile again. This man is a poet of geography. He calls himself a poet of geography. He was sitting on the square near this important building that people come to, and there were other people talking to him, and eventually one of our folks went up and started talking. He was very friendly. He spoke only Spanish. He speaks Spanish. But he would ask where you're from. So one of the Canadians was talking to him first, and she said, come on over. So I go over, and I told him I was from New York, Nueva York. And this, his note, so they turned the pages of his notebook. This is Nueva York, capital Albany. And in Spanish, historic details about New York.
Isn't that
State.
amazing?
Yeah. Yep. And he had many places like that. So he,
Oh,
it's very cool. That's just a close-up photograph of him. It's interesting.
Wouldn't you love to see an interview translated to find out where the man's interest came from? Look at this.
This is in a little town in an area called the Valley of the Sugar Mills. And you could either take a train from Trinidad to there. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes away. And we took our bus to go to this location, to then take a small train. But Richard, our leader, who's been there before, wanted us to be sure to meet this man and his fighting cock, his championship rooster that is in cockfights. And we spent more time than was pleasant talking to or looking at and taking pictures of this man and his bird. This is the engineer of the train that we were, it's like a tourist train going from this village farther up. This is a sugar cane juice stand.
Great shot. Look at this.
These guys were walking, these oxen were in this little town, Iznaga. That's a sugar cane juicer. You know, like we would have an orange juicer. So you put the cane between those rollers.
Sure.
And that little girl earlier who had the uniform from school,
Right.
She's the granddaughter of the cockfighter, and this is her family's farm that they come to in the spring and summer. This is sugar cane being delivered to a restaurant. Another old blue car that needs work on, has a red engine in there. See another horse cart. This is like a refrigerator, I think. It says it was checked okay. School crossing.
Oh, isn't that cute? Look at
Yeah.
that. Dick and Jane.
See, there's another seller of onions and garlic. And so he walks the streets and people buy from him. Just the street and the different colors, the different condition.
The Volkswagen, the first
Yeah.
bug.
Yeah, I think that was the only one I saw. This was a high school, a mural in the high school. And it says until victory. And then you go in farther. This is the bell tower of Trinidad. There's Che, the Revolution. Little dog, nice, nicely fixed up place. A little fruit stand. One of the few shop windows I
Look
saw.
at this.
Some dresses and purses and hats. That was. This
Oh,
lady is
look
named
at
Hilda.
Oh my goodness.
We were able to go in her old mansion. She lives in a big old house that's over 100 years old. This is some of the original stencil. And there have been movies shot there, both French and American movies. This is her bed, has inlaid mother of pearl.
Yeah.
This is a big stone bowl that filters the water. So water's put in the top, it comes out. This is her marble bathtub.
Oh.
This old, Spanish, rich
Yeah.
Spanish colonialist. She was very friendly. She's 93 or something, Hilda. The ceilings were these rafters then, or vaulted kind of, but then these flat horizontal things from which fans or, this was painted because of a movie, fans or light then hung from, that shell kind of scallop. That's a little clearer. How
Ooh,
those
look
are.
at
Very
this.
fancy woodwork, and there's the
Yeah.
light hanging down. It's very tall.
Yep.
This was a different, I think this was a different mansion, and they hadn't reworked that. This is one of the old dogs.
Oh, look at that face.
More of Che. This sign is for a hostel that you can rent rooms in. And this was a nice kind of a public building, which they have fixed up. So that is Trinidad.
Isn't that amazing and wonderful? Oh, I could watch them all day and all night.
Thank you. let's see. Let me see.
I hope I've been able to express my tremendous enthusiasm for what you do, Penny Clute.
Thank you, Gordy.
This is truly exciting for me. I love this kind of thing. The pictures, of course, you know, I have to take the trip vicariously because I'll probably never, unless I decided to dive in and swim, probably never make it to Cuba, but who knows?
I wouldn't
knows?
try it the swimming way.
Well, no, I don't think so. You don't know if you'll go back.
I don't know,
10
but I'd be
days would
interested.
just pique my
Sure,
curiosity, as
sure.
you've done here today.
And the timing is such that things are going to change. How they will change,
Yeah.
nobody knows, really.
But the opportunity for you to go there at that time,
Yeah, special.
a very special historic time, and I'm sure everybody felt the same way. Did you get together and debrief on the way home, or when you got back, or have you had a chance to correspond with the others?
I have corresponded with a couple of folks. We didn't really debrief that much,
Yeah,
but we had a lot of time to talk while we were there, though. We were
That's good.
very,
Yeah, compare notes.
very aware of how unusual the timing was for us to
I
be
think
there.
it's-
Yeah.
I use the word, and have used it many times with Calvin on this program, serendipity, things that happen by sheer chance, providence, fate, whatever you want to call it. But as long as we're grateful for the things that are thrown our way, and sometimes we actually can plan for them, like your trip to Morocco. Anyway, it's been wonderful. I had no idea you were so much involved with the photography thing. Let's do the
Thank you.
website again so people can look for it. If they've got a pen, they can write it down. We'll give it to them slowly.
Okay.
It's Penelope Clute Fine.
Yes, Penelope Clute Fine Art Photography .zenfolio.com, and Zenfolio is ZENFOLIO.
They've got it.
My email is penelope.clute@gmail.com. So if anybody wants to email me because they like something or wants to be on my list, I'd love to have them.
It always pleases me when I get reactions. As soon as Calvin will post this will be on fairly soon. Who knows? He's busy doing ball games over the next few days, but a lot of times within a few days, it's on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh,
And then the
okay.
website is up and running, which is hometowncablenetwork.com. A
Great.
special thanks to you for being here with us today and for sharing this part of your life. And what are the next big plans? Besides Morocco, anything special before this crazy winter is over? No more trips?
Well, only Morocco, which is,
Yeah.
to me is big and special.
Oh,
That'll be
that's-
late April.
Yeah.
But I've found they don't need to plan. Need to be open.
Yeah.
Open to seeing.
That's
Just
so-
like with photography, you learn to slow down and be open to seeing what's around you. And that's a good lesson for life,
my,
too, I
my
think.
mantra to so many people, especially young kids in schools, is pay attention.
Yeah.
As
Be
you
aware.
walk down the street, be aware of what's happening around you.
Yeah.
And it's not only just for a safety aspect in this crazy world we live in, but because you're going to miss beautiful things.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that great flash in your window, when was it, yesterday morning, as we had a thunder and lightning storm, and my wife jumped out of bed, and I'm there on the computer at 5:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden it's bright as day.
No, I
And then the
don't
thunder rumbled for 18 seconds, because I have to time everything with my OCD. And it was just something that you don't see in February, so.
I missed
But-
that.
But to pay attention, and I feel sad for the people who don't appreciate beautiful things, like those pictures just melt my heart, the pictures of those kids dancing. The
Thank
pictures
you.
of the dogs and the horses and the silhouettes and it's a good thing. So photography is a wonderful field because it is a kind of poetry and certainly is a kind of art, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you
And it helps a person to do what you're saying, to slow down and be aware.
Of course.
And there is
Oh,
much
yeah.
beauty around, and much of it's fleeting.
Yes,
So,
of course.
and you have to get up early for a sunrise or for, for the lightning or something, but it helps you do that and be more appreciative, yes, of what's around.
And you realize that.
You don't have to go to an exotic
No, no,
place.
no.
It's nice to, but it's not necessary.
But
And
as
there-
Penny pointed out, a photograph, as beautiful as those photographs are and were, never captures everything. You just have to imagine what was over here and over here and over here when each one of those pictures was taken. I'm sure each time you look at it, you see something that you didn't, a flavor or a shade or a color that you may like,
Yeah.
like a child or a dog under the cart or a shadow on the wall, or it's wonderful. It's been great. Penny, thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for being with here today. It's been a long time
welcome.
coming. I'm so delighted that you finally got here and we had a chance to talk to you. And I hope people comment to you about what they see and go to your website.
I hope so, yeah. Tell me what you liked best.
That's great.
Tell me your favorites.
Thanks again to Jimmy Murray. He peeked in during the show, but we didn't get him on camera. He maybe forgot that we were in here at that very moment. But Jim and Terry Miron for allowing us to use this facility at Comfort Inn. Yeah, I've perhaps consumed too much of the Perkins food in the past up in the corner restaurant. But it's been a great deal of fun to do that. I appreciate all the people who watch this program called Our Little Corner and comment on it. Give us suggestions and comments. Bear in mind, this is something I always point out at the end, that this is, we've called it a labor of love, but it costs money to put gas in the car and for Calvin to keep those cameras and microphones going. So if you can, make a generous check out and send it to Calvin Castine in care of Hometown Cable, 1477 Ridge Road in Champlain. And who knows where we're going to be next time.